Hey guys, I'm Jimmy Dooley, and this is the story behind the song, God Met Me There.
It was through the dark times, through the long nights, through the pain and my despair. God met me there. God met me there.
God Met Me There was a song that really kind of came from a few different places. I remember the first time I kind of thought of this song was I was reading a story about a contestant on a reality TV show that was battling through cancer and was very sick, and she wrote this little story about her journey and her struggle, and the title of it was I Met God on the Bathroom Floor. And I thought, that was really kind of a cool idea because sometimes we meet God in the most unexpected places in our life, and that's where He really becomes real to us and we find out who He is. And so that kind of got my wheels turning about this song. And not long after that, I watched a movie. I was at the theater and watching this movie about a famous singer who had really struggled with addiction and was really destroying her life. In spite of her success, she kind of saw it all slipping away because the addiction and the darkness in her life was just pulling her down. And there was one scene where she was just really kind of at her lowest point and at a breaking point, and she just fell down on the ground and just started crying. And in the scene she could see her mom, and her mom was kind of like a spiritual figure. Her mom had died earlier in the movie, and her mom came over to her where she was on the floor and put her arms around her and picked her up, and together they started singing the song Amazing Grace. And there was something about that scene that just was really powerful to me, thinking that that's the same way that God is. And that was such a great illustration, I think, of the way that God often finds us in our brokenness, in our darkness, at our lowest point, and He comes right to where we are and He picks us up and He loves us. And so those were kind of the two places that this song really started coming alive in my heart. And I started thinking about the song, and over these last couple years our family has went through all kinds of very devastating times of situations within our family and just everything going on in the world around us. And it's been in those times that God has become more real to me, and I have really found out more who God is and how He meets us where we are. And I know throughout my life growing up at church, I would always hear people say that God will meet you at the point of your need, and that's really just become a reality in my life and in my family and in so many people that have shared their stories with us along the way, that God really does come to where we are. And as I look back over my life, I think about those times. There's a line in the song that's one of my favorite parts, and it says, I thought that God lived on mountaintops, but I found Him walking through the valleys. And I think so many times when we think about God, we think about God as this, omnipresent being that is floating somewhere up in the heavens above us and watching down over us. And to get to where God is, we've got to get to this mountaintop place to really know Him and experience Him. But I think it's often in those hard times, those times when we're afraid, those times when we're hurting, those times when we're down, that we really find out who God is. And some of those times when we're walking through those dark valleys, that's when God really becomes more real to us, I think. And so we find God in places sometimes that we would never expect to find Him. We find God in a broken relationship. We find God in a hospital room when the doctors have given us bad news that we weren't expecting. And when we walk through those places in life that we sometimes were never planning on walking through or going through, sometimes that's where we find God the most. And so I hope that this song encourages you, if you're going through one of those times in your life, to know that God is there. And I believe that when we all look back over the course of our life and where we've been and what we've come through, we can see a pattern that every time and every place that we were, that God was there. And so I hope that this song speaks to your heart. And joy, God met me there.
When I felt heartbroken and scarred, when I didn't think